Please, don't let my father find me.
I won't, I promise.
The little girl was sitting alone on the floor of Seoul Station when Angela Monroe found her. Rainwater had followed the crowd inside, leaving dark footprints across the polished floor. Announcements echoed overhead in Korean and English. Travelers rushed past with umbrellas, suitcases, phones pressed to their ears. But the little girl didn't move. She was 8 years old, dressed in an expensive school uniform, her dark hair slightly damp, her backpack pulled tightly against her chest. Angela noticed her because everyone else was walking past. She crouched a few feet away. "Hey, are you okay?" The girl looked at her. No tears, no panic, just a strange, exhausted calm. Angela knew that look. It was the look of a child who had decided that crying wouldn't change anything. "Are you waiting for someone?" The girl shook her head. "Do you know where your parents are?" Another shake. Angela looked around. No adult appeared to be searching for her. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small bottle of water. "I'm Angela." The girl stared at the bottle, then at Angela. Finally, she whispered, "Min-seo." It was the first word she had spoken to anyone in nearly 3 hours. Angela smiled. "Nice to meet you, Min-seo." The girl accepted the water. And then she did something Angela would remember for the rest of her life. She reached into her backpack, pulled out a folded photograph, and held it toward Angela. There were 3 people in the picture: a little girl, a beautiful Korean woman, and a tall man standing slightly behind them. Angela pointed gently. "Your family?" Min-seo nodded. Then she pointed at the woman. "Mum." Her finger moved to the man. "Dad." Then she looked at Angela. Her expression changed. "Don't let him find me." Angela froze. Before she could ask why, several black vehicles pulled into the station's private entrance. Men in dark suits appeared, and the little girl's face went completely white. "He's here," she whispered. Angela looked toward the entrance. A tall Korean man stepped through the doors. He wore a charcoal coat, no visible expression, and the kind of quiet authority that made people move before he asked them to. Kwon Seo-jin. Angela didn't know his name yet. She only knew that every security officer in the station suddenly straightened. The girl beside her grabbed Angela's wrist. "Please." Angela looked down. "Please what? Don't give me to him." And in that single moment, Angela Monroe made a decision that would change all 3 of their lives. She took the girl's hand. Okay. She didn't know who the man was. She didn't know why the girl feared going home. And she certainly didn't know that the man walking toward them controlled one of the most powerful business empires in South Korea. She only knew that an 8-year-old child had asked her for help. And Angela had never been good at walking away. If you're already wondering why this little girl was afraid of her own father, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the truth was far more complicated than Angela could have imagined. The first trust. The station slowly returned to normal, but Angela could not. She sat in the back of the black car with Min-seo beside her. Seo-jin sat opposite them. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Finally, Angela looked at him. "Where are we going?" "Home." "You're home?" "Yes." "Then I'm not staying." Seo-jin looked at her. "I didn't ask you to." "Good." Min-seo looked between them. "Angela can come." Seo-jin's eyebrow lifted. "Min-seo." "She can." Angela almost smiled. "Your daughter is very direct." She wasn't always. That sentence changed the mood. Angela looked at Min-seo. The girl was staring out the window. "How long has she been like this?" Angela asked quietly. Seo-jin didn't answer immediately. "Since her mother died." Angela looked at him. 18 months. "Yes." "She hasn't talked to you?" "She talks." "That's not what I meant." Seo-jin looked down. "Not like she used to." Angela understood. There was a difference between a child speaking and a child actually letting someone into their world. Min-seo had chosen Angela after only minutes. That frightened Seo-jin. It also gave him hope. When they reached the estate, Angela expected Min-seo to leave the car immediately. She didn't. She held Angela's sleeve. "Come inside." Angela looked at Seo-jin. He nodded, so Angela followed. The estate was enormous, but the first thing she noticed wasn't the luxury. It was the silence. There were beautiful rooms everywhere, yet almost no sound came from them. No television, no music, no children laughing, no family arguing over dinner. It was a beautiful house that felt like nobody lived in it. Min-seo led Angela to the library. She pointed to a chair. Sit. Angela sat. Min-seo disappeared. 5 minutes later, she returned with a blanket. She placed it beside Angela. For you. Angela looked at her. Thank you. Min-seo nodded. Then she sat beside her. Seo-jin watched from the doorway. He didn't interrupt. He simply stood there, seeing something he had not seen in a very long time. His daughter was comfortable. For the first time in 18 months, she looked comfortable. 6 hours earlier, Angela had been having a very different kind of day. She was supposed to be preparing for an interview. Her teaching contract had ended unexpectedly 2 months earlier, and since then she had been taking temporary work while trying to decide whether Seoul was still where she belonged. She had come to Korea, believing she would build a life there. Instead, everything had fallen apart. The job, her savings, her confidence. Even the apartment she loved had become too expensive to keep. Still, Angela had stayed, partly because she was stubborn, partly because leaving felt too much like admitting she had failed, and partly because of Harabaoji. He was 74, the owner of a small restaurant where Angela had started helping during the afternoons. He wasn't her grandfather, but somehow, over the previous year, he had become the closest thing she had to family in Seoul. That morning, he had packed her lunch without asking. Interview, he had said. Yes. Good job? I hope. Rich company? I don't know. Harabaoji had squinted at her. Then ask for more money. She laughed. You make everything sound easy. It is easy. How? People are complicated. Money is not. That was Harabaoji. Simple. Blunt. Usually right. Angela left the restaurant smiling. By late afternoon, rain had started falling. She stopped at Seoul Station to catch a train home. Then the evacuation happened. A security alert forced people away from one of the platforms. Angela followed the crowd. That was when she saw the girl. At first, she assumed the child belonged to one of the hundreds of adults around her. Then she noticed something. The girl wasn't looking for anyone. She was waiting, like she had made a decision. Angela approached, and the rest happened exactly as she would later remember it. The photograph, the warning, the black cars, the man. Kwon Seo-jin reached them. He stopped 6 feet away. His eyes went immediately to his daughter. Min-seo. The girl didn't move. Seo-jin's expression tightened. Come here. She shook her head. The security team exchanged nervous glances. Angela stepped slightly in front of the child. Seo-jin's eyes moved to her. Who are you? Angela Monroe. Why are you with my daughter? She was alone. Where is her security team? I don't know. Did she tell you anything? Angela hesitated. Min-seo squeezed her hand. Seo-jin noticed. Mr. Kwon, one of the guards said quietly. We've confirmed the security team was separated during the evacuation. Seo-jin looked at his daughter again. Min-seo, the girl finally spoke. I don't want to go home. The words seemed to hit him harder than Angela expected. He crouched. His voice softened. Why? Min-seo looked at Angela, then back at her father. I don't trust them. Who? She didn't answer. Seo-jin's eyes returned to Angela. What did she say to you? Angela could have lied. Instead, she told him the truth. She said not to let you find her. Several guards immediately reached toward their weapons. Seo-jin lifted one hand. Everyone stopped. He stood. His face was unreadable. Did she tell you why? No. He looked at his daughter. Min-seo lowered her eyes. Seo-jin seemed to make a decision. Ms. Monroe. Yes? Would you come with us? Angela frowned. Where? My home. She almost laughed. Absolutely not. The corner of his mouth moved. Not a smile. Surprise. People probably didn't refuse Kwon Seo-jin often. I need to understand why my daughter trusted you. You can ask her. I have been asking her for months. Angela looked at Min-seo. The girl was still holding her hand. That told Angela everything. Then maybe, Angela said, you should stop asking her questions and start listening. Silence. Seo-jin looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fair. It was the first time Angela saw something behind the cold exterior. Not weakness. Pain. Learning each other, Angela's visits became routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she arrived at 10. Min-seo would already be waiting. At first, they studied English. Then they stopped pretending the lessons were about English. Angela taught her words that didn't appear in textbooks. Stubborn, Min-seo repeated it. Stubborn. Correct. Is Dad stubborn? Angela tried not to laugh. Extremely. Min-seo smiled. What about you? Me? Are you stubborn? Angela considered it. Ask your father. Min-seo laughed. It was a small sound, but Seo-jin heard it from the hallway. He stopped walking. Mrs. Yoon noticed. You haven't heard her laugh like that in some time. Seo-jin said nothing. That afternoon, Angela found him in the garden. You heard her? Yes. Then you know why I'm here. Because she likes you. Because she needs someone who doesn't treat her like a patient. Seo-jin looked at the river. I've tried. I know. You don't. I've watched you. He turned. That sounds dangerous. It is. She smiled. You love her. More than anything. Then stop trying to protect her from every uncomfortable emotion. His expression tightened. She's 8. Exactly. Angela sat on the bench. She needs to know she can be sad without everyone panicking. Seo-jin sat beside her. For a while they watched the river. Then he said, Her mother used to sit here. Angela looked at him. With Min-seo. Sometimes. What was she like? Seo-jin smiled faintly. Brave. Funny. Very. Stubborn. He laughed once. More than you. Angela smiled. Then I think I would have liked her. I think she would have liked you. The sentence stayed between them. It was the first time Seo-jin had spoken about his wife, without sounding like the memory hurt too much to touch. Angela didn't push. She simply stayed beside him, and that was becoming her gift to this family. She stayed. Angela did not move into the estate. Not at first. Seo-jin arranged for her to meet Min-seo twice a week. Angela agreed only because Min-seo had asked. The first visit was uncomfortable. The Kwon estate was enormous. Glass walls, stone floors, a garden overlooking the Han River, security cameras everywhere. Employees moved quietly through the halls. Everyone seemed to know who Angela was. Nobody seemed willing to say. Min-seo was waiting in the library. She had books arranged in perfect rows. Angela sat across from her. So, Min-seo looked up. So, what do you want to do? Nothing. Great. We're already getting along. The girl almost smiled. Almost. Angela pointed to a piano. You play? No. You want to? No. Okay. Angela picked up a book. What do you like? Nothing. Angela looked at her. You know, you're very good at making a person feel welcome. Min-seo's mouth twitched. This time it was definitely a smile. Angela smiled back. There's the girl. From the doorway, Seo-jin watched. He said nothing. Over the next few weeks, something changed. Min-seo began talking. Not much, but enough. She told Angela about school, about a teacher she disliked, about a classmate who stole her colored pencils, about the songs her mother used to sing. Angela listened. She never forced her to discuss her mother. That mattered. Because Min-seo's mother had died 18 months earlier. Seo-jin had never recovered. Neither had the girl, but their grief looked different. Min-seo became quiet. Seo-jin became harder. Angela began to understand that. One afternoon, she found Seo-jin standing outside the library. You're watching again. He looked at her. Watching what? Your daughter. She's my daughter. That doesn't answer the question. He was silent. Angela crossed her arms. You're worried. About her. Yes. She's lost people. So have you. His expression changed. Just slightly. You don't know me. No. Angela smiled. But I know what grief looks like. He looked away. That conversation should have ended there. Instead, he said quietly, her mother was the only person she trusted. Angela waited. After she died, Min-seo stopped trusting everyone. Except me. Yes. Why? I don't know. Angela smiled. Maybe because I don't treat her like she's broken. Seo-jin looked at her. She's not broken. Then stop treating her like she is. For several seconds, Ninna spoke. Then he walked away. Angela watched him go. She didn't know it yet, but that was the first time Seo-jin had allowed someone to challenge him without punishing them for it. The locked room. The following week, Min-seo asked Angela to teach her how to use an old camera. Why? I want to remember things. Angela stopped. That's a good reason. They spent the afternoon taking photographs around the estate, the river, the garden, the kitchen, Mrs. Yun pretending not to notice. Even Seo-jin, who looked deeply offended when Min-seo photographed him during a business call. Delete that. No. Min-seo, she smiled. Angela laughed. Seo-jin looked at Angela. You encourage her? Yes, I've noticed. That evening, Min-seo showed Angela the photograph of her mother. She took this. Angela looked closely. The woman was sitting in the same garden. Behind her was the old greenhouse. Why did you bring me here? Min-seo pointed toward the greenhouse. Mum hid things there. Angela frowned. They walked together. Inside, Min-seo moved to a wooden cabinet. She pulled out a small box. Inside were letters. Angela didn't read them. These belong to you. Min-seo shook her head. Mum said they were for Dad. Then we give them to him. No. Why? Because he won't listen. Angela looked at her. Then we'll make him listen. Min-seo smiled. They carried the box upstairs. Seo-jin was in his office. When he saw it, he went completely still. What is that? Something your wife left. His hand trembled when he opened the first letter. He read it alone. Angela and Min-seo waited outside. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, Seo-jin opened the door. His eyes were red. Min-seo ran to him. He crouched and held her. I should have known. Min-seo shook her head. You couldn't. He closed his eyes. Angela stood nearby. The letters revealed something important. Min-seo's mother had suspected that someone inside the company was manipulating the family's finances. She had not known who, but she had left clues. And the notebook was only the first. The name Min-seo gave her one afternoon. Angela arrived late. She had been delayed by a train problem, and by the time she entered the library, Min-seo was sitting on the floor with her arms folded. You are late. I know. You promised. I did. Min-seo looked away. Angela sat beside her. I'm sorry. The girl stayed quiet. Then, very softly, she said, You came back. Angela smiled. Of course I did. Min-seo leaned against her shoulder. A moment later, she whispered a word in Korean that Angela didn't recognize. What does that mean? Min-seo shook her head. Tell me. No. Angela laughed. Later, Mrs. Yun explained it. It was a private nickname Min-seo had invented for Angela. Not teacher, not Miss Monroe. Something warmer. Something that meant, roughly, the person who comes back. Angela stood very still when she heard it, because she understood what Min-seo was really saying. You left? Then you returned. Please keep doing that. Seo-jin heard the nickname that evening. He said nothing. But long after Min-seo had gone to bed, he stood in the hallway outside Angela's room and realized that his daughter had given the woman something she had not given anyone since her mother's death. A reason to expect tomorrow. One rainy afternoon, Min-seo asked Angela to stay after their lesson. I need to show you something. She led Angela upstairs, not toward her bedroom, toward her mother's old study. The door was locked. Min-seo pulled a key from inside her sleeve. Angela frowned. Where did you get that? Mum gave it to me. When? Before she died. The door opened. Dust covered the shelves. Everything inside looked untouched. Min-seo walked to a desk. She opened a drawer. Inside was a small black notebook. I found this. Angela picked it up. There were dates, names, numbers, and one sentence written repeatedly on several pages. Trust no one inside the Kwon organization. Angela looked at Min-seo. Does your father know about this? She shook her head. Why not? Because Mum told me not to tell him. Why? I don't know. Angela turned another page. There was a name. Han Dae-hyun. Below it was a number. Then another name. Kwon Seo-jin. Angela's stomach tightened. What is this? I don't know. Before they could continue, footsteps sounded outside. Min-seo grabbed the notebook. Someone's coming. The door opened. Mrs. Yun stood there. She looked at Angela, then at Min-seo, then at the notebook. Her face changed. Where did you get that? Min-seo stepped behind Angela. Mrs. Yun lowered her voice. You should not have opened this room. Angela's instincts immediately sharpened. Why? Mrs. Yun didn't answer. Instead, she said something that stayed with Angela. Because some things are buried for a reason. That night, Angela confronted Seo-jin. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked, Where is the notebook? With me. Give it to me. No. His eyes lifted. No. You'll destroy it. I would never destroy evidence. Then you'll hide it. He stood. Angela. She didn't move. Your daughter trusted me with this. Something in his expression softened. Show me. She handed it over. He read the pages. His face became colder with every line. When he reached Han Dae-hyun's name, he stopped. Who is he? Seo-jin closed the notebook. My mother's brother. Angela stared. Your uncle? Yes. Is he involved? I thought he was dead. Angela frowned. That's not an answer. Seo-jin looked at her. No, it wasn't. And they both knew it. A warning. Han Dae-hyun returned to Seoul quietly. No press. No announcement. Just one dinner at a private club. Seo-jin received the invitation. He refused. Dae-hyun sent another. This time, there was a photograph attached. Min-seo leaving school. Seo-jin's expression changed. Angela saw it. What happened? He handed her the phone. Her stomach dropped. How long has he been watching her? I don't know. Then find out. I will. Not alone. Seo-jin looked at her. You are not a security officer. No. You're not trained for this. No. Then why are you acting like you are? Because I understand something you don't. What? Your enemies think your daughter is your weakness. Seo-jin said nothing. Angela continued. She's not. Then what is she? The reason you keep fighting. He stared at her. She lowered her voice. And that's exactly why we need to make sure nobody can use her against you. That night, Seo-jin increased security around the estate. But Angela noticed something strange. The additional guards were all unfamiliar. She asked Mrs. Yun, who are they? Mr. Kwon's private team. Do they normally work here? No. Angela didn't like the answer. She began paying attention. One guard always stood near the east entrance. Another checked his phone every 11 minutes. A third never looked at Min-seo. Small things. But Angela had learned that danger rarely announced itself. It left patterns. She started writing them down. The truth about Yoon-ji. The memory card contained more than financial records. There was a second recording. Yoon-ji was sitting in the same greenhouse where Min-seo had once played as a child. Her voice was quiet. If you're watching this, I need you to understand something. My death may not have been an accident. Seo-jin stopped breathing. Angela looked at him. The recording continued. I discovered that someone was moving money through accounts connected to the family trust. I told Seo-jin, but I didn't tell him everything. A pause. I was afraid he would confront them before I knew who was responsible. Yoon-ji looked directly into the camera. The person closest to the answer is not the person you think. The recording ended. Seo-jin replayed it. Then again. Angela watched him. You've been blaming yourself for 18 months. He didn't answer. You think if you had known you could have saved her. I should have. You don't know that. I was her husband. That doesn't make you responsible for every terrible thing that happens. He looked at Angela. Then why does it feel like I am? She stepped closer. Because guilt gives you the illusion that you had control. The words hit him. Angela continued. Sometimes the hardest truth is that you couldn't have stopped it. Seo-jin looked away. For the first time, Angela saw him cry, not loudly, just one tear. He wiped it away before Min-seo could ever see. Angela didn't mention it again. But something between them changed that night. He had finally let her see the man behind the billionaire. The man who wanted the trust. Han Dae-hyun was not dead. He had spent years outside Korea building his own network. And now he had returned, not for revenge, for control. Min-seo's mother had created a private trust before her death. The trust contained shares in several companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Min-seo's would inherit control when she turned 18. Until then, Seo-jin was the legal guardian. But there was a problem. If Seo-jin were removed from control, another family member could petition the court to become temporary guardian. That person was Han Dae-hyun. He had already begun quietly building support. Angela discovered this through a conversation she wasn't supposed to hear. She was returning a book to Seo-jin's office when she heard voices. Dae-hyun, and one of the company's lawyers. We only need the girl removed from the estate for 48 hours. The lawyer hesitated. And Seo-jin. He will follow. And then the court receives the evidence. Angela's blood ran cold. She stepped backward. The floor creaked. Silence. The door opened. Han Dae-hyun looked directly at her. He smiled. Ms. Monroe. Angela forced herself to smile. Mr. Han, you've been very useful to the family. I'm just helping Min-seo. That's precisely why I wanted to meet you. He stepped closer. You're emotionally invested. She's a child. Exactly. His voice softened. Children make people irrational. Angela stared at him. He leaned slightly closer. Be careful, Ms. Monroe. Then he walked away. Angela immediately called Seo-jin. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? Your office. Why? Your uncle just threatened me. Silence. Then, stay where you are. Within 2 minutes, Seo-jin appeared. He looked furious. Not loud, not dramatic, just furious. What did he say? Angela told him. Seo-jin listened. Then he said, I want you out of the estate. Angela stared at him. What? You're leaving tonight. No, this isn't negotiable. You're trying to protect me. Yes. Then stop. He froze. Angela stepped closer. You don't get to decide that I'm helpless because your family is dangerous. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Neither did I when I met your daughter at the station. His jaw tightened. I won't lose another person. The words came out quietly. Angela stopped. There it was. The truth beneath everything. His wife had died. His daughter had nearly disappeared. And now he was terrified that anyone close to him would become another loss. Angela softened. You won't lose me because you care. He looked at her. You might lose me if you keep pushing me away. Neither spoke. For the first time, Seo-jin reached toward her. He stopped before touching her. Then lowered his hand. Stay. Angela nodded. I was planning to. The next morning, Min-seo asked Angela a strange question. Are you leaving? No. Promise? Promise. The girl nodded. Then she said, Mum knew Uncle Dae-hyun was coming. Angela went still. What? She told me. When? Before she died. Why didn't you tell your father? Because Mum said Dad would try to fight him. Angela frowned. He would. That's why she said I had to remember something. What? Min-seo looked toward the window. She said the truth wasn't in the notebook. Where is it? I don't know. Then Min-seo pulled out her mother's old music box. Angela recognized it. Your mother gave you this? Min-seo nodded. Angela turned it over. There was a tiny symbol carved into the bottom. The same symbol appeared on one of the notebook pages. Angela called Seo-jin. He came immediately. Together, they opened the music box. Inside was a hidden compartment. A memory card. Seo-jin stared at it. Where did you get this? Mum. He closed his eyes. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. The file contained a video. Min-seo's mother appeared on screen. She looked tired, but calm. Seo-jin, if you're watching this, then something has happened that I hoped never would. Seo-jin's face changed. Angela stood beside him. The recording continued. Dae-hyun is trying to take control of the trust. Seo-jin whispered. I knew it, the woman continued. But he's not working alone. The screen went black. Angela looked at Seo-jin. Who else? He didn't answer. Then the video restarted. A second file appeared. This time it showed a meeting between Han Dae-hyun and a senior executive from Seo-jin's company. The executive was someone Angela recognized. Mr. Park, the man who had been advising Seo-jin for 15 years. The man who had attended Min-seo's mother's funeral. The man Seo-jin trusted. Seo-jin stared at the screen. No. Angela looked at him. That's the problem. He shook his head. He saved my life. People can change. No. Seo-jin. He looked at her. What? Sometimes people don't change. She pointed at the screen. Sometimes you just finally see them. The escape. When the estate lost power, Angela knew immediately that it wasn't an accident. She grabbed Min-seo's hand. Stay with me. They moved through the service corridor. Min-seo was surprisingly calm. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. My mum's tunnel. Angela stopped. Your mother had a tunnel? Yes. Of course she did. Min-seo almost laughed. They entered the passage. Behind them, doors slammed. Someone shouted. Angela's heart raced. Min-seo squeezed her hand. You promised. What? You promised you wouldn't leave. Angela looked at her. I meant it. They reached the greenhouse, but the exit was blocked. Angela looked around. Another way. Min-seo pointed to a storage room. Inside was a hidden staircase. They climbed. At the top, they found themselves in the old guest wing. A man stood at the end of the hallway. Angela froze. Mr. Park, he smiled. Ms. Monroe, Min-seo stepped behind Angela. Park held out his hand. Give me the girl. No, don't make this difficult. Angela looked at him. You know, I've been thinking. About what? People who are confident usually don't need to threaten children. His smile disappeared. He stepped forward. Then a voice came from behind him. Take one more step, Seo-jin. Park turned. Seo-jin stood at the other end of the corridor with 2 armed guards. His expression was calm, too calm. Park raised his hands. You won't shoot me. No, Seo-jin smiled. I won't need to. The police sirens sounded outside. Seo-jin had already sent the evidence to investigators. Park looked toward the window. His face fell. He had lost. Angela leaves. After the first major threat, Seo-jin doubled the security around Angela. He assigned guards to follow her. He required approval before she left the estate. He even moved her room closer to Min-seo's wing. Angela lasted 3 days. Then she packed a suitcase. Seo-jin found her downstairs. What are you doing? Leaving. You can't. She stared at him. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I am trying to protect you. No. You're trying to control what happens to me because you're afraid. His expression hardened. I lost my wife. And I understand that. You don't. Then listen. She stepped closer. I'm not Yoonji. He went silent. I'm not someone you can keep behind a wall and call safe. His jaw tightened. I won't watch another person die. And I won't spend the rest of my life being treated like someone who can't make her own choices. He looked at her suitcase. Where will you go? Home. New Orleans. Maybe. The word hurt him more than he expected. Angela picked up the suitcase. Min-seo appeared at the staircase. She looked at the bag. You're leaving. Angela's heart broke. She knelt. I'm not leaving because of you. You promised. I know. Min-seo's eyes filled with tears. You said you come back. Angela touched her face. I will. Then she looked at Seo-jin. I need you to understand something. He waited. If you love me, you have to trust me. She walked out. Seo-jin did not stop her. For the first time, he understood that loving someone sometimes meant letting them walk away. The return Angela stayed away for 4 days. She went back to her small apartment. She tried to return to normal. She couldn't. Every morning she expected a message from Min-seo. Every evening she checked her phone. On the 4th night, there was a knock. Mrs. Yun stood outside. Min-seo hasn't eaten. Angela's heart dropped. What happened? She says she is waiting for you. Angela closed her eyes. Then she remembered what Min-seo had said. You said you come back. Angela picked up her coat. I'm coming. When she returned to the estate, Min-seo was sitting in the library. The moment she saw Angela, she ran. Angela caught her. I told you. I know. You came back. I always will. Seo-jin stood in the doorway. Angela looked at him. I came back for her. I know, but I'm staying because I choose to. He nodded. That was the first time he did not try to control the outcome. He simply accepted her choice. And Angela realized he had finally understood. Love was not possession. It was trust. The attack happened 3 days later. It started with a phone call. Seo-jin was at his office. Angela was at the estate with Min-seo. The security system suddenly went offline. Every screen in the house went black. Mrs. Yun rushed into the room. Ms. Monroe! Angela stood. What happened? We've lost the external cameras. Then the lights went out. Min-seo grabbed Angela's hand. Don't be scared. Angela almost smiled. I'm not. She was terrified, but she couldn't let the girl see it. A sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Mrs. Yun locked the door. Angela whispered, How many guards? Enough. That wasn't my question. Mrs. Yun looked at her. 6 inside. How many outside? None that I can reach. Angela's heart dropped. Someone had planned this. The door handle moved. Min-seo whispered, Angela, I'm here. The door opened. A security officer stood there. Mrs. Yun, we need the girl. Angela immediately knew something was wrong. The officer's badge was correct. His uniform was correct, but his shoes were wrong. The estate's security team wore black shoes. He wore brown. Angela stepped backward. Who are you? He raised his weapon. Mrs. Yun pushed Angela down. A shot struck the wall. Angela grabbed Min-seo and ran. They escaped through a service corridor. Min-seo knew the house better than anyone. They reached the old greenhouse. Angela locked the door. Where now? Min-seo pointed toward a maintenance tunnel. My mother showed me. They crawled through the narrow passage. Behind them, men searched the greenhouse. Angela held Min-seo close. How did you know about this? My mum used it. Why? When she was scared. They reached the other side and walked directly into Seo-jin. He had returned with his security team. The moment he saw his daughter, everything else disappeared. He crossed the distance. Min-seo ran to him. He dropped to his knees and held her. Angela stood several feet away. Seo-jin looked at her. His face said everything. Thank you. Fear. Relief. Love. But there was no time. Mr. Park, Seo-jin said. His security chief nodded. We found him. Seo-jin stood. Where? In the main house. They returned to the estate. Mr. Park was waiting. He didn't deny anything. You were always too emotional about this family, he told Seo-jin. Seo-jin stared at him. You betrayed my wife. I betrayed you. No. His voice became colder. You betrayed her. Mr. Park looked at Angela. You have no idea what you have done. Angela answered. I saved a child. He smiled. And now you're going to die for her. Seo-jin stepped between them. No. It was only one word, but the entire room seemed to change. You don't touch her. The hearing. The next morning, the entire city was talking. News reports called it a corporate scandal. Nobody knew the personal story. Nobody knew about Min-seo's fear. Nobody knew about Angela. At the hearing, Dae-hyun's lawyers tried to paint Seo-jin as unstable. They described his grief, his isolation, his security measures. They argued that he had become incapable of protecting his daughter. Then Angela was called. She walked into the room. The opposing lawyer smiled. Ms. Monroe, you are not family. No, you are employed by Mr. Kwon. Not anymore. The lawyer paused. Then why are you here? Because his daughter asked me to be. Children are easily influenced. Angela looked at the judge. Then ask her. Min-seo was called. She walked to the witness stand. The room became silent. The judge asked, do you feel safe with your father? Yes. Do you want to live with him? Yes. Why? Min-seo looked at Angela, then at Seo-jin. Because he finally listens. The judge smiled gently. And Ms. Monroe? I want her too. Seo-jin lowered his head. Angela's eyes filled with tears. Min-seo continued. She doesn't replace Mum. The room went completely silent. Nobody can replace Mum. She looked at her father. But Dad doesn't have to be alone anymore. Seo-jin closed his eyes. For the first time in 18 months, he allowed himself to cry in front of his daughter. And Angela understood that the real victory had nothing to do with money. It was the restoration of a family. Han Dae-hyun planned to use the security breach as evidence that Seo-jin was incapable of protecting Min-seo. He had forged documents. He had witnesses. He had money. He believed he had already won. But he had underestimated one thing. Min-seo. The lawyer presented the memory card. The video was played. The forged documents were exposed. The financial records connected Dae-hyun and Mr. Park. The case collapsed. Dae-hyun was arrested. The trust remained under Seo-jin's control. Min-seo was safe, but Angela knew something had changed. She could no longer pretend she was simply working for them. She loved the girl, and she loved the father. That frightened her more than any threat ever had. No contract. Angela's suitcase was by the front door. She had planned everything. New apartment, new job, a small life that belonged only to her. She was afraid of what would happen if she stayed. Not because of danger, because of love. Seo-jin found her before she could leave. You were going to disappear. I was going to say goodbye. Without telling me, I didn't know what to say. He looked at the suitcase. Then don't say anything. She frowned. He took a breath. I spent years believing that if I controlled everything, nobody could hurt me. Angela said nothing. Then my wife died. His voice broke slightly. I controlled everything even more. He looked toward the stairs. Then Min-seo stopped speaking. Angela's eyes softened. And then you came. I didn't fix her. I know. You helped her. You did too. He shook his head. I learned from you. He stepped closer. I don't want you to leave, Angela whispered. Because of Min-seo? Because of you. She looked at him. I love you. The words were simple. No dramatic music. No grand speech, just truth. Angela smiled. You took long enough. He laughed. I was trying to be certain. Are you? No, she smiled. Good. Good? I don't want certainty. What do you want? Something real. He reached for her hand. Then stay. Angela looked at the stairs. Min-seo was standing there. She was crying, but smiling. Angela walked to her. Come here. Min-seo ran into her arms. Seo-jin watched them. Then he joined them. For a moment, the three stood together. No contract, no obligation, no arrangement. Just a family, choosing each other. After a while, Seo-jin stopped. I need to tell you something. Angela turned. I've been offered a position overseas. She stared. Where? Singapore. For how long? 3 years. Angela's heart dropped. You haven't told Min-seo. No. Why? Because I don't want to go. She looked at him. Then don't. I have spent my whole life making decisions based on what I thought I had to do. And now? Now I want to make one because I want it. He reached for her hand. I want to stay. Angela smiled. Good. That's all. What do you want me to say? I don't know. Then I'll say this. She stepped closer. Home isn't where you started. She squeezed his hand. It's where you finally stop feeling like you're waiting to leave. Seo-jin looked at her. And you're home? Angela smiled. Yes. He kissed her forehead. They stood there quietly. Across the river, Seoul's lights came on one by one. For the first time, neither of them was afraid of what tomorrow might bring. The family they chose, Min-seo, came downstairs before Angela could answer. She looked from Angela to her father. Are you staying? Angela knelt. For real. Min-seo's face broke into the biggest smile Angela had ever seen. She ran into Angela's arms. Seo-jin joined them. For a long moment, none of them spoke. There was no replacement for Yoonji. There didn't need to be. Angela would never become Min-seo's mother. Seo-jin would never stop loving the woman he lost. But grief did not mean they had to stop living. They could carry the past without living inside it. And that was the family they chose. Epilogue. 6 months later, Angela stood in the kitchen of the Kwon estate making breakfast. Min-seo sat at the island doing homework. Seo-jin was on a video call with his office. None of them were paying attention to him. He finally ended the call. You know I'm still the owner of the company. Angela looked at him. Congratulations. I could fire both of you. Min-seo looked up. You can't fire me. Angela laughed. Seo-jin shook his head. This family is impossible. Min-seo smiled. You like us. Seo-jin looked at his daughter, then at Angela. Unfortunately, Angela walked over and placed a plate in front of him. Eat. He looked at the food. What's this? Breakfast. You know I don't eat this. You do now. Min-seo laughed. Seo-jin looked at them both. Then he smiled. Not the controlled, almost smile Angela had first seen. A real one, the kind that reached his eyes. Outside, Seoul moved beneath the morning sun. Cars crossed the bridge. The Han River carried the light across the city. Angela thought about the woman she had been when she first arrived in Korea. She had believed her life was falling apart. She had thought the failed teaching contract was the beginning of the end. She had been wrong. Sometimes the door that closes is simply forcing you toward the one you were meant to open. Angela had gone to Seoul looking for a career. She found a family. Min-seo had gone to the station trying to escape a world she no longer trusted. She found someone who listened. And Seo-jin, who had spent years believing that love made people vulnerable, finally learned the opposite. Love had not weakened him. It had given him something worth protecting. Angela looked across the table. Min-seo was smiling. Seo-jin was pretending not to. And for the first time, Angela didn't wonder whether she belonged in Seoul. She knew. She had never been hired to become part of the Kwon family. She had simply walked into their lives at the exact moment all three of them needed someone to stay. And sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with two people falling in love. Sometimes, they begin with a child taking a stranger's hand and asking her not to let go. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notifications for more emotional stories of love, family, secrets, and unexpected second chances. And tell me in the comments, if you were Angela, would you have stayed with Min-seo when you first realized how dangerous her family was? I read every comment,